Okay, I'm going to do a little video here. I'm going to talk a little bit about one type of trade that we do. And on the chart, I'm going to draw some things, or actually have drawn some things. I'm going to go over them step by step. And there's a few things on this chart that I want you to pay attention to. So starting with our little scale over here, we have trend lines, which are these real light blue lines. There's three of them that I drew on here. There's the green arrows, which there's one, and that's a long or a buy. And then there's the red arrows, which is a sell or a short. And then there's three trades. Everything else on here let's just ignore for now, except for the candles. These candles are price bars. They go up and down with the price. So this is the price moving down. This is the price moving down 5 minutes later. The price moving up a little bit, 5 minutes, 5 minutes. They're 5-minute price bars. And then finally the price moving down. Okay, so let's move this whole chart over so it looks like how we see it. Now there's a 5-minute price bar that appears, and then 5 minutes later another one appears, and then 5 minutes later, and so on. Pretty soon we have what's called two price failures. So here's a price failure and here's a price failure. And then I draw a trend line from price failure to price failure, and I extend it out. And I typically extend it out a lot farther than this, but this trade has actually just gone to target, so I cut it off. But the trade might look something, or the trend line might look something like that. And then when we hit the price, okay, the trend line or the price bar comes down, and it touches the trend line, okay, and it touched it at 39, at 32.39, and it actually went a little bit farther. It went through it. Okay, and that's where we get our buy. That's our long. That's our first trade. And what we're looking for is 2 points on the upside, or 8 ticks. And you can see that on the next bar we went up to 41, which is 8 ticks. So we went from our entry possibly down a little bit and then back up, and then our entry's at 39. That's where it intersects the trend line, and then back up to 41. And then in the next bar, it came back down a little bit. Never really went through here. We never had a loss or even close to a loss. And then it went back up, and it went all the way up to 43, which from 39 is a 4-point winner. We don't really care about that. But then, usually after that, I cut these trend lines off like that and mark it as a trade. Okay, so now we take a look at this price right here. And this is actually a 10-minute price failure. We can draw from that. We look for our next price failure, and we draw a trend line. Same thing. These are not here at the time that I drew this, so this is just extending off here someplace. And the price moves down. It moves down again, moves up, and then it moves up and it tags this trend line. And it actually, at 43.75, it tags the trend line, and it goes through to 45, which is, five ticks, no big deal. Okay, we allow 12 ticks. Okay, and then on the next bar it starts coming down. And if you look here at our entry at 43.75, and right at the next bar it went down to 41.25, which means it went actually down 10 ticks. And we're not really worried about anything more than 8. I take my 8 ticks profit and I run. Okay, so now I have a little bit of a tail, a little bit of extension above this, and I go back to this price failure, and I draw another trend line, and I extend it on up. And let's just cut this one off so it's a little simpler. Okay, and if you were looking at this like this, it would look more like this. And these price bars aren't here yet. Remember, we're only to this point right here where I drew this trend line from point A to point B. Then the price pulls away, it comes down, it comes all the way down here. We're not in a trade anymore. We already made our money. If we had stayed in this trade from 43.75 all the way down here, we would have made 5 and 3/4 ticks or something like that. So, almost 6 points, but we're not really worried about that. We're just worried about 8 ticks profit. So the price went down. We have our trend line drawn, and we're waiting for it to come back up and hit this trend line again. This is a new trend line, okay, and it does. And you can see it hits that trend line right on. It doesn't even go through it half a tick, and it turns around and goes right back down. Okay, and it went from 46.50 all the way down to 39.25, which, you know, again, is a 6+ points, and it went down here maybe another point or so, so 7 points, but we're only worried about 8 ticks. That's all we want, 8 ticks profit. So there's 3 trades that set up, just trend line trades. We're just talking about trend line trades. We're not talking about anything else. We're not looking at any of these lines, and there's other trades that set up in here, but we'll talk about those at a later date. So this is a trend line trade. These lines are all drawn manually. This is something that you'll learn in class, and this is just a real brief explanation of how trades set up over the course of a day on a 5-minute chart. Thanks.